Welcome. You're listening to Ask the Doulas, a podcast where we talk to experts from all over the country about topics related to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and early parenting. Let's chat.
Hello. This is Kristin Revere with Ask the Doulas, and I am thrilled to chat with Lauren Scocozza today. And our topic is all about the importance in having feeding support for moms, whether you're a new mom or a seasoned mom, and how to set up feeding support system, and all about what's on the horizon for Willow, which we're huge fan of all of Willow accessories at Gold Coast Doulas. So welcome, Lauren.
Thank you, Kristin. I'm so excited to talk with you today. This is an absolute thrill for me. One of my favorite topics is systems. So I'm super excited for our conversation. Yeah.
So you are the Vice President of Product for Willow Innovation. And
Yes.
For our listeners who may not be familiar, you created the first fully in-bra wearable pump and revolutionized how moms pump today. And you are, as you said, like leading the mission to elevate maternal experience by developing feeding products that fit into busy moms' real lives. So, and then you also have an adorable 4-year-old daughter.
Yes, I am in the height of the toddler era at the moment. And I joined Willow in my postpartum era, actually. I've been here for a little over 3 years. So I was very still fresh in the throes of postpartum in that first year with my daughter when I joined. And so I have a lot of really close emotional empathy for moms go through and new moms, especially around feeding. And that's what I'm excited for us to talk about today.
Yes. And I feel like it's overwhelming. Our clients, whether they're birth doula clients or students in our classes or baby registry clients, they're always wondering and overwhelmed by all of the options with, again, those pumping bras and which pump to register for, or does insurance cover a particular pump? So we get a lot of those questions.
Yeah. And I think a lot about my own pregnancy period when it was time, and I know this is a topic that you guys talk about a lot, which is creating your registry. And part of that is deciding what you need before you've ever, especially if you're a first-time mom, before you've ever gone through an experience. And that's a really tough thing to do, right? Part of we're trying to do at Willow when we think about how we work with new moms or pregnant moms is trying to conceptualize what it looks like for when you have a new baby.
Yes.
And I think when you're deciding what goes on your registry or what products you need, thinking about the way that your postpartum experience looks like can really help inform what works for you and what doesn't. I had a pump through insurance when I had my daughter, and I spent a lot of time tied up to a wall. And that was not really how I had pictured what postpartum was going to be like for me. One of the reasons I actually came here to work at Willow, because I didn't know about Willow at the time, when I was registering for products. But when I had found out about it later, I was so incredibly moved by the fact that the founders of this product spent so much time with pregnant moms and early breastfeeding moms and pumping moms, and they kept hearing about how terrible the pumping experience was. And instead of looking at that and saying, we have to get more milk for that baby or something like that, they said, that's really awful for her. And a pumping mom is tied up to the wall 20 minutes a day, 20 minutes at a time, 6 times a day. And she's not spending time that she could be with her baby or being close in a way that she pictured or she hoped. And I loved that they looked at that problem and thought, we can do better for her. And especially for thinking about my own experience and some of my friends, one of the hardest parts about matrescence is this idea that you're going through a giant change and you don't necessarily understand where the old you and the new you sort of come together. And especially when you're breastfeeding or pumping, providing breast milk for your baby, there's a physical aspect to that is really difficult. Even if it comes easy, it's a lot of work, but there's also
Right.
a big mental load to that too. And so I love that our founders really thought about mom and her experience. And it's something that our product team continues to put at the center of how we think about what to make and what to create in terms of our new products. And we started in 2014 from a medical device incubator. We still have a lot of that core healthcare DNA. And we utilize that in terms of how we decide what we're going to make. So yeah, that's a little bit about how we started and why inventing the first ever wearable breast pump feels like just happened. We launched it in 2017, but now the market is saturated. There's lots of wearable breast pumps, but we feel really proud that we stand to change the status quo, right? And really allow moms to feed differently.
Right. Yes. And it's so important. I mean, with commute and traveling moms and the need to pump wherever you go. Like, I'm so thankful now that airports have the pumping pods and
Yes.
workplaces have dedicated rooms to pump, but it wasn't always the case.
Right. And of course, very well because of your line of work, the access to being able to pump is just as key to some of the more milk that you remove, the more milk your body will make.
Right.
And wearable pumps such as our Willow 360 and Willow Go allow you to pump more often so that your body continue to make more milk for your baby. And that's really the beauty of these wearable pumps. And that's what we see with our data and from our moms and everyone who uses them.
It is brilliant and so needed, certainly. So what are your tips for our listeners who are considering all of their options in planning for their feeding journey, whether they're going to plan to breastfeed with the goal of pumping when they return to work and getting a stash set aside in advance, or if they plan to be exclusive pumpers?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a great question because I liked what you were saying about sometimes talking to pregnant moms or early first time moms and what that feeding journey could look like and what they might need for it. I think one of the most difficult parts for me personally when I was pregnant as a first time mom was sort of envisioning what was past the birth. I
Right.
almost couldn't get over okay, what's the birth going to be like? This is going to be either the most pain I've been through or what. I didn't know what it was going to be like when I got home. I just kept thinking about the birth. I don't
Very
know
common.
yeah, very common, right? So it's hard to conceptualize what it means. And then you also have people saying things to you like you'll have maternal instincts and you'll just know what to do. And I think in the age of constant information that we live in now, a lot of those messages are coming at you all of the time, and it can feel really hard and overwhelming when you do first get home from the hospital and you're like, did someone just allow me to take home my baby with no instruction manual? What do I
Right.
do now? Right. Which is why I'm so thankful for experts like you and postpartum doulas and people who are there to help mom and reassure parents that they're on the right track. Right. In general, I think when moms are trying to think about their feeding journey, there are definitely questions you get like, oh, are you planning to breastfeed? Of course, yes, I would like to breastfeed. Or no, I would not like to do that. But you have no idea what's going to happen, right? There's so many possibilities. And I think it's hard.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really hard to conceptualize what to do when you get home as well. Like, what does your space look like? How does it feel when you have this new roommate coming home
Right.
who actually doesn't sleep on any kind of schedule for quite some time? And so when we talk to pregnant moms and new moms about this, we are mostly in the beginning trying to help explain the idea of feeding support and feeding support systems and how some tips that you could do to set yourself up for success. I think the beauty of having postpartum doulas and lactation consultants is they can help you work through systems like that as well. And we're always trying to create products that work within those kinds of systems. So for example, one of the things that I was thinking about, so we have a great registry product called Find Your Flow Feeding Kit. And what it does is actually includes several products for breast care and really for early postpartum breast care. A lot of these products are perfect for. And it comes in like a 12-piece kit, and it actually has a virtual feeding and breast care content inside, and even a free virtual IBCLC appointment to help you get started in a way that you feel confident.
That is wonderful. I feel like after baby arrives, the gifts are all for baby, but the mother needs care too. So this kit is brilliant, not only for a baby shower gift, but also for that postnatal way to pamper a new or seasoned mom.
Yeah. And, I think there are a lot of postpartum products for mom that are focused around the birth. There are fewer that are about breast care, and breast care is directly related to feeding. Right? If you're choosing to breastfeed and pump, which obviously if at Willow, we talk to a lot of those moms, there are lots of things that can happen and change in those early weeks with your breasts. There's pain, there's discomfort, there can even feeling like wearing a bra can feel overwhelming at times, right? And you might not expect all of that to change. All that change to happen so fast. Your breasts are also leaking when your milk comes in. How it can be very frustrating in those early days. I think about it all of the time of just constantly changing my clothes and feeling like I'm always wet or feeling sticky and uncomfortable. There's so much healing that happens in your body after birth, but then your breasts are changing as well. So again, it's one of those things where it's not very much talked about, right? When you're going to all your third trimester OBGYN appointments. And, a lot of it's
Right.
focused on the birth and not necessarily on breast care and what feeding is going to feel like and be like after birth.
Exactly. And that's why I feel like a breastfeeding class, we offer both a breastfeeding class at Gold Coast as well as a pumping class. And having that education during pregnancy and having partners or other support people attend so they can better support the feeding journey.
That is so crucial. And in my job now, I think all the time about how I wished I was better set up for success myself postpartum with that I took the birthing classes and things like that, but breastfeeding and pumping felt like an overwhelming black hole that I could not understand. And I really do love that that's part of the curriculum that you guys are doing, because that shift in mindset around feeding is going to happen postpartum, whether you're prepared or not, right? If you decide that you'd like to breastfeed and pump and provide breast milk for your baby, in the beginning, it's a 24-hour job.
It sure is.
And I think that is the joke that people say to you, well, when the baby comes, you'll never sleep again. They don't really tell you what the shape of that looks like, right? If you're a lactating mom and you're deciding to breastfeed and pump, you're feeding your baby every 2 to 3 hours around the clock. And so it's not that you'll never sleep, but you're not getting almost like enough in a chunk to feel rested, right? One of the systems that we talk about is if you have a partner or a doula or a support system, what can you do when you're pregnant around your home to help set you up for success when you come home in those early postpartum weeks and you are doing that 24-hour feeding cycle, right? I know that you guys probably help moms set up their spaces all the time.
We do a little station with all of the mom care needs as well as the baby or babies if there are multiples.
I love that. And we have some great content for experts, postpartum doulas like yourself, who helped us create these kinds of systems and ways of helping mom understand her space, but then helping us create the products that fit into that system. And so if you think about the idea of a nursing cart, right? That's
Right.
more popular now. This Find Your Flow feeding kit that has these early breast care items has a lot of what you need to get that nursing cart started. So like cooling gel nipple pads and reusable breast pads for leaking, hot cold breast therapy packs, right? So warm helps the milk get started and cold can help soothe and also slow it down. When you're pregnant, you're not sure how breastfeeding will go. Sometimes you'll be an undersupplier, an oversupplier. Your milk regulates for quite some time in the beginning. So
Right.
it's kind of all over the place, right? And some of these tools can help you feel more comfort or more healing as your nipples and your breasts are super sensitive and you're working on either latch during breastfeeding or also getting used to pumping.
I love it so much.
I think oh yeah, go ahead,
I
Kristen.
was just going to say, no matter how you plan, things may change. I know I took a breastfeeding class with my first pregnancy, and then my daughter ended up with a short NICU stay. So I needed to pump in the hospital and then go back from my postpartum room to the NICU, and had a short amount of time once I was able to give her my pump milk to feed her, because everything is so structured. And then eventually I wanted to transition to breastfeeding and had to get additional help from lactation consultants. So it's helpful to have a pumping plan, even if your idea is to wait until you transition back to work, because a NICU stay may happen or something else can come up where I was not prepared for a pumping journey so early on.
Hey, Alyssa here. I'm just popping in to tell you about our course called Becoming. Becoming a Mother is your guide to a confident pregnancy and birth, all in a convenient 6-week online program. From birth plans to sleep training and everything in between, you'll gain the confidence and skills you need for a smooth transition to motherhood. Live coaching calls with me and Kristin, tons of expert videos including chiropractic care, pelvic floor physical therapy, mental health experts, breastfeeding, and so much more. You'll also get a private Facebook community with other mothers going through this at the same time as you to offer support and encouragement when you need it most. If you'd like to learn more about the course, you can email us at info@goldcoastdoulas.com or check it out at thebecomingcourse.com. We would love to see you there. We also have a book called Supported, Your Guide to Birth and Baby, which makes a beautiful companion to this course. It's a great book for any expecting mother and is the perfect baby shower gift. You can find information on that book at supportedbook.com.
I feel that very closely personally. I had my daughter during the height of COVID and I had postpartum complications. And so I was readmitted to the hospital twice, but because of the rules at the time, she wasn't allowed to come with me. And so in a similar way for the baby being in the NICU, we were separated and we had not planned for that, right? And so I think there's so much that you think about with birth and how that's going to go. And there's a lot of possibilities that could happen postpartum. But I think instead of being worried or over anxious about all the possibilities, I think thinking through the plan, which is what they coach you when you're doing a birth plan, right? Thinking through a postpartum feeding plan will help you make decisions when you get thrown a curveball like you did or I did, right? Maybe that means you feel would like to breastfeed, but you want to pump later, but something could happen and what happened to me is my husband had to give my baby a bottle before my milk came in. So I'm so glad that a friend of mine had put in a registry gift a container of formula. It wasn't my original plan was, but again, curveballs get thrown all the time and we were separated and the baby needed to eat, right? And so when I came back home and we learned to latch and all of those things, I got to have some of what I initially wanted from the beginning, that closeness, the goals that I had for myself. But also, that was one of the first big feeding lessons that I learned, which was it's never going to be exactly what you want, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work for you and your baby, right?
Yes, I love that. all about being flexible and, knowing that if you have the right support team, you can figure out anything that might come your way, whether it's a change in birth plan or the postnatal plan, like you mentioned, getting readmitted, and knowing that you had support from friends and your partner certainly helped.
Absolutely. I think the other sort of tip around early feeding and coming home postpartum can also be a little bit of what we were talking about, that 24-hour cycle of feeding. One of a hard lesson that I learned early on was night parenting looks a little different than daytime parenting. And I didn't really have a good setup at home that was ready for that nighttime parenting. I think a lot about how when I first came home after my hospital stay, my body was still healing from birth. And I realized that I never knew I had such a high bed that I could not
Oh,
get into. And so we ended up, my husband and I, sleep and my baby sleeping in the living room because the couch was the easiest way for me to get up and down as my body was healing. But we hadn't really planned on that. We had a nursery set up, an area with the bassinet. We had our room, but okay, now we're all in the living room. Like, how long are we going to be in here for? Do we need to
right.
set up some stations here? We didn't have any of that. And so, in fact, the baby woke up in the middle of the night. It's like one of the first 2 nights, and we couldn't see anything because we didn't even have a lamp. Like, we just had the overhead lights. It's like, okay, what does it look like at night? We need some soft light. We need some, we can't use our phone camera for all of this. This was, it was kind of like learning by being thrown into the fire of like, oh, okay, I need to set up my space to work for us, not trying to
Right,
make.
exactly.
And that was such an amazing revelation. And I know that postpartum doulas often meet with parents when they're pregnant to help them prepare plans about their space and how to change it.
Yes, we do, definitely. And whether it's looking at stations, and some of our clients may be in their living room during the day and then in their bedroom with the bassinet in the bedroom, and others may prefer to have baby in the nursery. So we try to optimize feeding as well as sleep in all of the spaces that our clients and their babies are. So, yes. And then as far as the wearable pumps, any tips for our listeners in selecting one? How do you make sure the fit
Oh,
is
yes.
perfect when you're potentially ordering it online, for example?
Yeah, the fit is crucial for success with wearable pumps in general. One of the nice things about that breast care kit that I was talking about earlier that we sell, it actually includes a nipple sizing guide in it. So even if you get that as part of your registry before you choose a pump, you're able
Okay.
to size yourself. I think the most important thing that most IBCLCs or LCs will tell you is that your nipple size will probably change over the
Yes.
course of your pumping, right? Early postpartum, you'll be one size, and then as your milk comes in and as your journey continues, your nipples and your breasts, everything changes constantly. So having a great nipple sizing tool like we have in our Find Your Flow kit, and we also include in all of our pump kits, is crucial. And resizing yourself is crucial. So sizing yourself once and being sort of done, remembering that your body is going to continue to change is great. And saying, okay, if you are starting to pump and it's not feeling right, like pumping should never hurt ever. That's a good sign that something is incorrect. So whether that means you're the wrong size or something with the pump itself is not great, like that pumping should not hurt. Now, in general, breasts can be sore, of course, in early postpartum, but in general, pumping should not hurt. So resizing yourself, looking at size, it's crucial. And one of the differences with wearable pumps, obviously, from like a traditional desktop pump is that you can't always see your nipple, right, when them on because they're wearable in your bra. And so that's why sizing with a nipple ruler is so crucially important. I also think that working with an IBCLC or an LC is really helpful and really great. And there are definitely appointments that you can get covered by certain insurances. So I'd always recommend people looking into that. And we have great IBCLC partners here at Willow as well, who will even help with virtual consultations for free if someone can't afford it or doesn't have insurance to cover it. So I think in order to be set up for success, knowing that breastfeeding and pumping are not just things you should know how to do, but they are skills that you can learn and get great expert advice from, will help you sort of reach out and say, what's my modern village look like, right? To doulas, to postpartum sleep experts, to IBCLCs, like who can I go to help me through this really new time in my life? I think those things are really key. In general, for wearable pumps, in the same vein of pumping should never hurt. One of the things that we worked on at Willow with our Willow Go pump is to basically make it the most comfortable pump on the planet. That was really our goal. Comfort is so related to output,
Right,
milk
it sure
output,
is.
that has to be comfortable. There is a lot that we designed intentionally into this pump to make it the most comfortable. And mainly, I would say to new moms, is thinking about the phalange itself. And that is the space where your nipple enters into, that's connected to the rest of the pump. Our phalange is pretty long, and that is on purpose. Your nipple will expand into the phalange as the motor pulls for the tug and release to indicate to your breast that it's time to express milk. And you want that to be long and comfortable so that your nipple has room to expand into it. Our phalange also has no hard edges that press against your skin, so there's no feeling of pain or discomfort from that. And it's one continuous long piece. So as your nipple enters into the flange, there's nothing rubbing against your nipple like as it goes in and out, which is really crucial. And it's one of the reasons why Willow Go continues to be mom's favorite pump. It wins lots of awards for output, and you can see in reviews online, it's definitely a hospital grade wearable pump that is most comfortable for moms. So they have the most output success with it.
I love it, Lauren.
So those would be things that I would look into for sure. If you're looking at a pump and there's every pump kind of markets very similarly now, right? So it's like everything is discreet, everything is hospital grade. I would really look at some of the details of how the pumps are made. A smaller pump isn't always the most comfortable because the shorter the phalange, the more your nipple is going to hit either the back of it or rub against it in some way. So I would definitely look into sort of the design and mechanics of certain pumps when you're looking at them, especially for wearable pumps, because some of those things are really important to having success.
Right. And then your pumps tend to be on the quiet side compared to a lot of other pumps. And so that's also something to factor in.
Absolutely. And some of the best testimonials we get are actually from like second or third time moms, which I always take as a badge of honor, right? They've been through it before. They kind of like know,
Yes.
but a lot of moms with toddlers, like, okay, I got to run around and I can't actually sit and be tied to a wall, or like I have to actually be moving and I want to get a pump session in. Those are some of our quiet, small, discreet. Those things are all really important. And like I said, a lot of pumps will say that, but what we find is our pumps continue to get the best output in the time that moms are pumping with, which is really at the core of it, what you want to be successful.
So what's next for Willow, Lauren?
As we talked about, we're definitely passionate about helping moms and sort of elevating that maternal experience. And we want to build solutions that really work for moms' real life. Our pumps are smart pumps, so they're app connected, and you can control those pumps from your phone. So, for ultimate discretion, sticking them in your bra, being able to pump and start and stopping them, controlling the suction all from your phone is super helpful. But also we want that to go beyond. So in the same way that you're helping prepare pregnant moms and even early postpartum moms for what's to come and how to work through different curveballs that they get, we would like our app to do more work than just control the pumps. And we've added a ton of content from experts, like doulas like yourself, IBCLCs, OBGYNs, We have one-click to services for people to be able to have virtual appointments if they need them. And we just launched a couple of weeks ago a partnership with a healthcare AI tool called Emma, which
Exciting.
is absolutely fantastic. It was built by women who wanted to help scale the experts and the vetted scientific information that's out there in just for women's health. And so you can actually ask Emma questions about feeding, about postpartum, all the way actually to menopause if you wanted to. She's really focused on women's healthcare, and she can help guide you to some great resources. So we want to be there for mom as she's figuring this thing out. Feeding your baby and being postpartum is a huge mental load. And anything that we can do to make it a little bit easier for her, that's what we're going to focus on doing. So items like our kit that has everything you need in it for breast care are the types of products that we're going to continue to launch. You can actually buy our Willow Go and 360 products in Target, Amazon, places like that. But we're going to be introducing some new products next year to support that feeding journey and help mom create some systems that alleviate that mental load and increase her accessibility to postpartum products.
Excellent. So any final tips for our listeners?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I know this is a question that you ask, and I was trying to think about like what I would hope somebody would have said to me when I was trying to breastfeed and pump, when I felt like it was overwhelming or a little hard. I think what I would have said to me 4 years ago was that like any amount of breast milk that I can provide for my baby has benefits for me and my baby. The longer that I can do it, the longer those benefits last, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. So it doesn't matter if you breastfeed once a day or 8 times a day, like it all counts, it all matters. And, we even have data, from some studies that show that even just like 50 milliliters, like, which is like a little bit less than 2 ounces, I think, of breast milk per day can provide babies with the same important nutritional and immune boosting benefits than being exclusively breastfed, right? So there's any amount of breast milk is great. I think sometimes it can feel like black and white or like a binary, like I'm either doing this or I'm not. And the truth is most women are doing a combination of lots of things throughout their feeding journey.
Exactly. Supplementation may be needed and a mix of pump milk and breastfed. So yeah, I agree.
We did the study earlier this year. It was like almost 2,000 moms, and more than 60% who met their feeding goal combo fed, right? There's lots of tools like pumps, like formula, like other things that can help you be successful in breastfeeding. And it looks different for everyone. It even looks different between babies, which I'm sure you've seen, right? Like it's not a failure if it doesn't look exactly how you pictured. And at the end of the day, there's no mom better for that baby than you. And I think that's what I would say to anybody who's starting out on this journey and what I wish that I could say to my former self.
So true. Excellent tip. So how can our listeners connect with you?
We are online at onewillow.com. You can see all of the products that we have for feeding and postpartum there, and on Instagram at Willow Pump. We have a really great Willow Mom community that is growing every day, and people share all kinds of tips and tricks and connect with each other. It's sort of that modern village that I love. So that's what I would say.
Excellent. And then you mentioned your products are available at Target and Amazon as well.
Yep, as well as on our website and of course through insurance. You can definitely get our pumps through insurance and some of our other products as well.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren. I appreciate the time and all of your wisdom, and we'll have to have you on again.
It was so fantastic to speak with you, Kristin. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Doulas. For more information about Gold Coast Doulas, visit us on our website, goldcoastdoulas.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Thank you. Remember, these moments are golden.